Good morning and welcome to our 11:15 session. You are presently in the Michigan Works Apprenticeship Roles, Best Practices, and Lesson Learned session. Hi, my name is Ken Flowers. I'm the Dean of Career and Workforce Education at Lake Michigan College. We are welcoming today Rick VanIttersum and Erin Venno from Michigan Works. Rick is the Vocational Training Manager and Co-Apprenticeship Success Coordinator. He's responsible for linking job seekers seeking new careers with local colleges and education providers offering training for in-demand occupations. At his 7 years at Michigan Works, bearing cast Van Buren, Rick has also worked as a talent development specialist, labor market data analysis, and a one-stop service center manager. He was awarded the 2019 Michigan Works Shining Star Award, celebrating Michigan Works Agency frontline staff who, through dedication and outstanding contributions to workforce development, personifies the Michigan Works mission. Rick currently sits on multiple department advisory boards for Lake Michigan College and Southwest Michigan College, is a graduate of University of Michigan. Erin is a sector relations manager and co-apprenticeship success coordinator. She is a former corrections officer strategizing for greater good by working with industry, education, and community partners to develop workforce solutions. She's constantly looking for old ways to solve new problems and new ways to solve old problems. 3 years ago, she fell into apprenticeship and has learned alongside Rick about how to integrate this nifty work and learn method through much trial and error. Now she's a huge advocate for registered apprenticeship in all sectors and is excited to share more with you today. And I will also add that we work quite a bit together with this group here, and I am very impressed with Rick and Erin, and I love working with them. So they'll have a lot of great work to share with you today. I just was sharing their talents yesterday in a state meeting. So very much impressed by these two. So thank you. Take it away.
Thanks, Ken. Thanks for having us, and try and say those titles 5 times fast. So welcome to the Michigan Works Apprenticeships Roles, Best Practices, and Lessons Learned. Rick and I have kind of fallen into apprenticeships over the last couple of years, and hopefully we can save you some of the lessons learned that we had. So we're excited to share more with you today. So we have both been the co-apprenticeship success coordinators for about 3 years, working closely together. Me, Erin Venno, I am working on the business side, working with employers to educate and inform, advise, be a liaison between us and the USDOL, and helping set up those timelines so that we can get things started. And Rick, I'll turn it over to him to explain his side of the role.
Yep, and we share that apprenticeship success coordinator role. I handle the trainee job seeker intake and coordination process between employer, the training providers, and then the job seekers. And so my background prior to coming to Michigan Works was in academic advising. So I do, have quite a bit of experience, working with students and, within the college system to try to accomplish their goals, not only just through registered apprenticeship, but through other high demand training programs. So Erin and I work, very frequently together, and also with, CAD at Lake Michigan College to establish, and grow apprenticeship programs in our area.
So we're going to talk about a number of different things today, talking about how we got started, because I think history is just as important so you can understand exactly how we got to where we are, what our current state looks like, some of the lessons we learned, again, learn from us so that you don't have to do those same exact things, the apprenticeship services that Michigan Works offers, talking a little bit about how there are apprenticeship success coordinators all over the state and how you can kind of find where you need, where you're located, find your ASC, and then we'll open the floor for questions. So I'm going to start us off a little bit with just a quick video.
Thank you so much for recognizing me with the 2021 Impact Award. This is such an honor to be recognized by Michigan Works, Berrien, Van Buren County. I've been working for White Oaks for many years as a resident caregiver. Early in my career, my goal was to be a licensed CNA. The apprenticeship program of Southwest Michigan was the perfect opportunity for me to reach this accomplishment. The apprenticeship program worked perfect for me because it allowed me to work regular work schedules while pursuing my CNA certification at the same time. I'm thrilled to have this terrific opportunity, and I'm grateful to Michigan Works, Berry and Cass, Van Buren, and White.
What we realize is that every day we're impacting the local people and employers that are in our area. And sometimes we get, you get a little bit into the grind, but every day when we do something, we're impacting people like Mary. And it wants to play again. We're not going to do that. So where did it begin? About 3 years ago, we began having conversations with employers in our area. And there was a lot of discussion way before COVID ever happened about how do we get skilled workers into our facilities. There was a lot of input and data that was brought forward. And what we found is that despite having wonderful training providers in our area, we weren't meeting the demand for the employers and the openings that they had. So we started looking at different funding and partners, which included both those employers and the training providers in our area, and saying, what can we do? What funding do we need to set something up? So when we sat down, we looked at what is important versus what isn't. And that decision really comes directly from employers. The employers are the ones that tell us if a credential is valid. The employers tell us, is this occupation valid? Are we barking up the right tree? So are we looking at an occupation that truly is relevant? It's going to be relevant for a time. You don't want to do all this work for a year. And finding out what skills are necessary for the staff to have a good career. And then kind of creating a program that works for all. I will say, I think healthcare is probably a really great sector to set up a collaborative apprenticeship simply because the state mandates a lot of what the curriculum looks like, the skills, the credentials. So to set it up, each facility has to have the same credentials and certifications to hire someone. However, moving past that, we also looked at additional certificates that might be valuable to employers over the course of time. So we'll show you in a little bit here what I mean by that. But we took input from all the employers to build this program. In our first cohort, we focused on incumbent workers and found that was very successful. We had a 97% success rate with our incumbent workers. I know it was over 90%. Rick, do you have the exact percentage?
97.3% of the first, cohort was able to complete not only their CNA, trading at local trading providers, but also gain their license.
I was close. I was really close. So one of the things that we found is that since we had all these fantastic training providers, what we could do really well was be essentially a matchmaker. Once applicants said, this is where I live, and did some testing to show us their educational level, we could look to see, are they ready for a college level course that moves fairly quickly, meets a couple times a week, and you have to be, a little bit motivated to get some things done on your own? Or is this an individual that probably needs a little bit more assistance in order to be successful?
And I'll chime in there. This, specifically got around the Certified Nursing Assistant Apprenticeship program. This is a program, or at least CNA is a curriculum that Michigan Works in our area had always been very influential in, but there were always, small factors that growth could occur in. One of the pieces that we identified that was holding both job seekers and employers back was that the CNA certificate wasn't a Pell eligible program. Many of the participants would be eligible, for Pell Grant, but since a shorter term program was not financial aid eligible, this was a perfect way to build, a program and wrap around, different funding streams to help students both with the tuition pieces, the licensures, the uniforms, the supportive services. Those were a really great way to identify, those gaps. And working as a group, this group, our Healthcare Apprenticeship Consortium, it was of employers from 3 different counties and different areas. So taking a curriculum that was very similar, like the state of Michigan CNA curriculum, was super, super helpful with building those relationships between the employers. I'll go into a little bit of the levels on what our CNA apprenticeship program looks like. What are the requirements for USDOL registered apprenticeship? Is you have to have at least 144 hours of related training in instruction. And current guidelines with the state of Michigan, CNA has a minimum of 75 hours. So one of our goals and one of our objectives working with employers was identifying skills, identifying credentials that would assist and grow their CNA staff, not just from the entry level person starting like at the very beginning, but if you had individuals who wanted to do more within that CNA role, for instance, one of the levels that we have was for preceptor, for mentors, because what would typically happen, like say in a facility, whoever had the most experience or whoever is the most personable with individuals, they become the trainer and they become the mentor. But what kind of tools and what type of training is available to help out those mentors? So it became a process working with those employers of identifying, let's say, add-on certifications. So the ones that the employers over and over were talking about was help and extra assistance with dementia and memory care, and having their CNA and frontline staff have more training where it comes to working with individuals who do have memory care or dementia issues. They also thought it was very important to have essential healthcare employment skills, like say feeding, first aid, CPR, dealing with difficult patients, dealing with difficult, like say family members or others that are coming in, and that customer service piece that's just as important as any of the clinical skills that you would have in the area. And then in level 3, they actually would choose a specification. We chose 2 that were important to the employers. One is that preceptor that I brought up before, but other was a restorative care certificate program for facilities that would take in, like say, physical therapy and rehabilitation patients that would come up for surgery. That was very important to many of the employers. So these add-on certificates, like say, it met the employer need, but also gave CNAs and other job seekers those additional credentials and training and confidence to perform the program well.
One of the things to note with these levels is that level 1 is what an employer typically receives out of training for a CNA. So levels 2 and 3 are both above and beyond state licensing, and so that those have never been truly implemented in our area. So it did take employer buy-in in order to set this up. But one of the things with apprenticeship was that we were able to say, for each completion of a certification, you get a step raise. So CNAs were able to use this as a little bit of a career pathing and continuing education opportunity, as well as getting, raises for these certifications. So currently, we have 4 different occupations. 5. We sponsor, Michigan Works Cass Van Buren is the sponsor of 4 different healthcare occupations, and in a close relationship with a 5th. About a little over a year ago, we were approached by our major healthcare employer, Spectrum Health Lakeland, to talk about a medical assistant apprenticeship. They had already begun speaking with Lake Michigan College and talking about how they could expand equity and inclusion and use some of the resources at hand to bring the local community into more skilled positions within the hospital system. They already have a growth program, and the growth internship program focuses on having real world experiences for students of color in our area. And how can we extend those benefits past an internship and into an employment? So in December 2020, we had a fairly quick recruitment process. In about 3 weeks, we had 67 applicants that went through applications and testing at Michigan Works, Berrien-Cass Van Buren, Lake Michigan College, and Spectrum Health Lakeland. It was a very hectic holiday for all involved, but what we were able to do was start a cohort of medical assistant apprentices in January of 2020. This was a big learning lesson for all of us because it was something we had never done together. We were growing our own partnership, and there was still a lot of kind of that role determination of who does what. We learned a lot from this, and our opportunities to improve. We'll go through this in great detail, but we realized that we needed to have a more concrete timeline from start to finish. We would meet very regularly. We would talk, but having somebody responsible for a timeline and putting it together was really crucial for us to be successful and for us to help recruits be successful. We also got an opportunity to really understand the roles that each of us would play as partners in the apprenticeship, and how we could further assist our other partners through those roles. The requirements of a registered apprenticeship, working with the USDOL to set up. Although we had worked in those before, this became a much bigger process for us and something that we learned a lot from. And then also tracking the progress of applicants through multiple systems. When you have 3 entities that are closely partnering, that sharing of information is really crucial, and understanding what information. And by that, I mean that Spectrum Health Lakeland is interviewing applicants. And one of the things that was really important for us was for them to not receive any applicant information that may influence any hiring decisions. So understanding how we can share and be conscious of what each other is doing without implementing any bias or information that may affect the process as it continues on. Rick, anything to add there?
I'll say, and I put in the chat, the initial projection for that December, January cohort was around 20 to 25 applicants. But I think it really shows the demand of, like, say, individuals, especially this group. The target, like, say, group for this MA apprenticeship was incumbent workers, like, say, at Spectrum, like, say, Health Lakeland. And anticipated during the holidays there would not be as many. Well, there was a lot of demand, like, say, for this program. So over that 3.5 week period of the 67 applicants, like, say, Michigan Works, Lake Michigan College, and then Spectrum Lakeland Health, we actually processed or had 40 individuals go through the entire process, from registration for classes, going through doing your assessments, getting a thorough, thorough interview, like, say, between the partners to identify, like, say, those best fits. So it was great to have, like, say, that demand that's out there. This is something that, as folks know, during that time, it was really difficult to have multiple applicants, like, say, for programs going through. But it was great, like, say, to make sure that individuals, not just for, the MA programs that were out there, but would know more about what services that the colleges offer, what programs are out there, but also what support services and tuition funding was available to them through Michigan Works.
And that's another really good point. And I know we'll talk about that, but having those resources available is really crucial, especially in programs where your intent is to increase diversity and inclusion, as having the resources available to help people succeed. Lessons learned. So here's the meat and potatoes, because I think these are the things that we have really taken away and have evolved our understanding and our role in apprenticeship, especially in non-traditional occupations. Explain apprenticeship, show it, and then maybe do it a different way yet another time. When we walked into our first presentation to talk about healthcare apprenticeships and why we wanted to bring it to this area, there were crickets. I mean, there were looks of like, what? There was no understanding. And they thought, well, why in the world would I want to do apprenticeship? It'll be 4 years to get a CNA. That's not reasonable. That's crazy, things like that. What we learned is that people do not understand apprenticeship, not in the way that you need to in order to implement it. They think of apprenticeship as a skilled trades or manufacturing method of getting staff. And it's going to be 4 years. And that's just, non-negotiable. That's not true at all. Apprenticeship is an incredibly flexible, tailorable method of training staff. And like I stated earlier, healthcare is ideal because not only do we have very specific credentials and certifications, but what better way to truly learn healthcare than to be able to read it, talk about it, and do it in class, but then demonstrate it in the workplace. By the time someone completes their apprenticeship, they are ready to rock and roll. They are integrated within the facility or building. They know exactly what they need to do, policies, procedures, and they've probably also had experience at the front desk learning some of the customer service ways. So it's just a matter of explaining it and showing it and making sure that people understand exactly what apprenticeship is.
And then I'll take over on, point 2 here. Flexibility. It's one of the great assets of apprenticeship, as Erin mentioned. Employers, consortiums can design programs as they see fit to be and meet their needs, for that local employer or for that local area. But it's also very important to set deadlines and have a structure that all partners involved, be it the college system, the employer, the Michigan Works, and the candidates, know what those expectations are and when they are. Now, it's also great to be flexible. Again, within the, sphere of the COVID-19 pandemic, classes would be canceled, things would move virtual, things were changing in a very, very, rapid pace. But still having that structure of what steps need to be taken for candidates, what needs steps by the employer, and having that rubric, out in front, extremely important, when setting up partnerships and registered apprenticeship programs.
We know that apprenticeship is employer-based, but for people that are new to this, we have to make sure that that's out front and very explicit, because it is critical to have that full partnership involvement from the very start in outlining and understanding goals and the long-term vision. We still to this day have employers say, so when they finish their apprenticeship and I hire them, no. It's from the very beginning. They are employees from the very beginning. And that involvement and that mentorship from the employer is a critical part of apprenticeship. And it also ensures that the training that is being done is what is needed for that employer. For example, when we look at the CNA outline that Rick talked about earlier, you can choose to do a rehabilitative or a preceptor certification for level 3. If you are not a rehabilitative facility, that is completely not valuable to your employer. So knowing what the employer needs and having them involved and giving that input and that data is critical for success of the program. It's impossible to run an apprenticeship. We can be the sponsor and push as much as we want and have as many resources as we want, but without the employer being involved, we will fail. And so that is something that we know that we need to have from the very start. That employer demand-driven mentality is incredibly important for apprenticeship.
All right. And as Erin alluded to a little bit earlier, there's great success in incumbent workers and investing in the talent that you have on hand. A lot of the greatest successes that we have seen, not only just with healthcare apprenticeships, but with apprenticeships in general, is with those incumbent workers, where an employer takes the time and the resources to invest in, that individual. This is extremely important in the current hiring climate here locally, here statewide and here nationally, where with population and workforce declines, it's incredibly difficult to find like say skilled labor at the exact time, like say that you need it. So investing in those incumbent workers has been a real key to our success, like say here locally, because you've been able to see as an employer, what are their soft skills like? Do they show up on time? Are they motivated? Do they show eagerness, like say to advance in the position? That's where the investing your own models really worked well for these apprenticeship pieces. And this is something that, again, with labor projections, I'm looking for the coming years of the 2020s. Investing in your own talent and investing in your own workforce is going to be extremely important as we move forward in this decade.
I also alluded to earlier talking about timelines during the development and recruitment phase. One of the things that we really learned during the medical assistant apprenticeship was that we have to make sure that we build in time for ourselves and for applicants. The medical assistant apprenticeship recruitment phase opened in the middle of December. Classes started the first week of January. You can do the math, and understanding that there are technically four holidays in that space, and what that may have looked like. When we began talking to one of our employers about a pharmacy technician apprenticeship, we started in March. That cohort did not start school until September. And let me tell you why. Because we knew that we needed to develop it. We needed to have a cohesive marketing and recruitment strategy. And we also wanted to make sure that we gave applicants ample time to understand what they were getting themselves into and to make sure that they could arrange their life to meet those needs. Particularly, again, I not to beat a dead horse, but when we talk about diversity and inclusion, we need to make sure that we're building in time for people to find childcare, to make sure that transportation is available, to make sure that they have the pieces lined up for them to be able to successfully start this program. One of the things that we have learned and we implement every single time we do an apprenticeship now is to have a tentative timeline. And that timeline outlines everything for when do we expect to have marketing available? When will recruitment open? When will recruitment close? When will interviews take place? What date do we want to have offer letters sent out? All of these different things are built in, a drop dead date for all testing, in order to make sure that all parties and partners and all the applicants have ample time and space to be able to do all of the things necessary to get started. I think we have a pretty good template for our timeline now, and we use that again with every single apprenticeship. And we also have learned a lot about the different things that we should talk to the applicants about. Again, when we talk about explaining apprenticeship, it goes for both employers and applicants. Sometimes people don't exactly understand what that means. Do we talk to them and make sure that they are ready to go back to school? Are they going to be able and to do maybe possibly part-time work at that point in time? Do they understand that in healthcare, an externship is an unpaid work portion? All these different things that we need to talk about take time.
And then finally, access to support services matter. Individuals don't start trading with the intent of, I'm going to start my CNA training so I can do things in 4 weeks, but then fail the training. Typically, when individuals drop out or follow training, it's because of external factors that's impacting life just beyond something as simple like say as mileage reimbursement and fuel to get to class, or scrubs, $100 like say pair of required scrubs, like say for a particular program, or even $125 like say test. Those are small, like say little things that aren't always covered within like say tuition programs. So making sure that like say that individuals and the partners are aware of what type of supportive services are available, like say in the very beginning, so that the apprentices feel comfortable going to either their talent development specialist or career development specialist at Michigan Works, their mentor on the job, or their advisor over, like say, at the college to help share, like say, resources on that one. This is one of those pieces where even something as simple as again, $125 test was keeping individuals from getting their CNA license and ultimately getting the job that they had trained for.
So one of the last things we want to talk about is the apprenticeship services that our Michigan Works offers, and some of the things that we can do to make this easier for both the employer and the apprentice. One of the things that I do the most is educating, informing, and advising employers of what is apprenticeship, how do you set it up. These are the things that we've seen before that may make it easier for you, and all around the kind of ways that we say that apprenticeship could be a good fit for you, and let me tell you why. We also liaise between the USDOL representative and the employer as necessary. And in that, particularly when we sponsor programs, we are the ones that complete kind of the red tape portion. And that's a big appeal for employers, especially those that may have never done apprenticeship before. We find in our area that a lot of our skilled trades and manufacturing employers choose to sponsor their own programs. But with the healthcare, again, as I spoke earlier, we are the sponsor of 4 of the 5 programs that are currently in place. We also help manage that project development. So when we sit down and meet with the employer and they say, we are looking at doing a cohort of X number of apprentices in this occupation, and we are hoping that this is going to be our training provider. Those are the things they nail down. Let me take it from there. Here's a timeline. This is the space we need. This is what we need from the employer. Here's the training provider and what we need from them. And again, Ken talked earlier about how often we work together. That's because they're a great provider of those trainings and they're a great partner for apprenticeship programs. So we work frequently to help set that up and make sure that deadlines are being met. The other thing we can do is work with our business team to determine any assistance, financial assistance through Michigan Works programs. Many of you have probably heard the Going Pro Training Fund. $3,000 per first-year apprentice. How's that for some money right in the pocket of the employer? Those are different things that we can do to help make sure that some of the burden of that cost is taken off the employer. Again, we sponsor the program with the USDOL. Sponsoring a program is not difficult, and I tell employers that, and it really depends on what you're looking to do. However, we can take that red tape right off your hands and do that for you and just add the occupation right underneath what we already have and continue working. All that takes is a good communication with the employer. And then the other thing we do is facilitate consortiums and collaborations for those training solutions. Earlier, Rick mentioned our Healthcare Apprenticeship Consortium, and that's exactly what it sounds like, is a consortium of employers in the healthcare industry that look at apprenticeship as a way to recruit talent, career path, and have a talent pipeline in the area. It's a great way to work together for a common solution. So we have a couple of those consortiums that work together through apprenticeship, that it's not a competition, it's to work together to get the word out.
And then on the apprentice side, really the pieces is the exposure to what different area employers, like say, have apprenticeshable occupations, so that if a mom and a 17-year-old come, like say, to Michigan Works and ask, okay, what apprenticeships are out there? We try to match them with their interests, their, like say, their school, their pieces that they've been, like say, they've been high school or their past experience. Try to match it up with programs, and not just traditional occupations, but now in more and more non-traditional occupations, like say, as well. We also can provide assistance with those work-related tools, clothing, supplies, and depending on grants, like say fuel reimbursement, assistance with, like say, childcare, car repairs, pieces like that. So again, to try to sustain or maintain those apprentices within, like say, those programs. We don't want to see anyone drop off because they couldn't, like say, pay their rent because they went and spent money on tools. these are the things that we want to support and supplement with different funding streams that are available through Michigan Works. And then the one-on-one career coaching. My team of, like, say, career development specialists, youth career advisors, we're here trying to mentor and assist, like, say, individuals who are wanting to start training, are in training, to be, like, say, answer those questions and help them, like, say, and assist them through that process. That's what we pride ourselves in, being that number one expert to, to design strategies for your job search, or for even, like, say, talk mentorship opportunities of, like, what's going on within a particular job, to either connect you with resources that we have or other community partners that can assist in those pieces. And that's, they say, just the tip of the iceberg. We could go all day on different programs that are available through formula funding, through the state of Michigan, through grants that other entities, like say, have applied for and been granted. But there's never been more support and more services for apprenticeship than there has been, than there is right now.
And I'm actually going to chime in with one piece on the second bullet. When we talk about assistance for work-related tools, clothing, and supplies, one of the great things about apprenticeship is that you don't have to, the apprentice does not have to pay for their own schooling, right? But some of those little things, those little extras on the side, those are the pieces that an employer may not necessarily purchase. So we're there to help make sure that that apprentice isn't, going without food or rent in order to make it happen. So Rick and I can talk about apprenticeship forever, but we are not the only apprenticeship success coordinators in the state. We do have a QR code right here to find. We have 16 different Michigan Works across the state of Michigan. And as you can see in that bottom left-hand corner, right on Lake Michigan, we service 3 counties, Berrien, Cass, and Van Buren. However, across the state, there are our counterparts that are in those Michigan Works systems, and you can scan that QR code to find your local apprenticeship success coordinator. If you want to contact Rick or I, we'd also be happy to point you in that direction to make sure that you're working with someone that has the funding and access to the employers in your area. And lastly, I know we can talk about it forever, but we would love to answer any questions or comments that anyone may have.
Yeah, one thing I'd like to point out, Erin, I think it's been advantageous about partnering with Michigan Works is the ability to spread the apprenticeship work around the apprenticeship initiative. A long time it was just community college locally here that helped local employers with apprenticeship, whether it be set them up. We don't hold any of the. We are not the training. We're only merely the training provider, but we also help them hold their standards and things like that, or at least get them started. So Susan has a question in the chat. What are the job classifications incumbent employees hold when they're selected for the CNA and the MA programs?
So Susan, the reason we talk about incumbent employees is typically you have a lot of departments, maybe in environmental services or nutrition services, that may have worked in the field for umpteen years, and they're fantastic employees. But they've never had the money to go and the time to go back and get that certification. So there aren't really job classifications that we require. In fact, we would love to have those people that may be from the departments that don't have those requirements beyond maybe a high school diploma, because those are the ones that we can really create the greatest impact. So a lot of those come from entry-level roles, and those are the ones that go through the programming and really begin their career path. Does that answer your question?
And I'll add one more piece of that too. We also have 2 facilities that have assisted living and skilled nursing on site. So some of those apprentices were resident assistants working on the skilled, the assisted living side. And then once they gained their CNA licensing and finished their apprenticeship program, then they moved over to the skilled nursing part of the facility.
Yeah, I don't see her in here this afternoon, but one of the things from our dental assisting group is looking to establish apprenticeship. So that's one of the things we'll get connected and kind of see how we can move forward from there.
Yep, that's another very good, occupation, for apprenticeship, again, with the chair side and all the other pieces that go into and the demand in the, in the area. I think that's the piece, again, is there's several dental offices, but putting them, in groups and consortium where you have common offices looking for a common occupation, work together, to solve the talent issue versus trying to have 12 different offices do 12 different strategies.
No, that makes sense. I think one of the things we also talk about too is, not every local manufacturer has an HR department, or every office has an HR department where they can manage the rapid system or work with the Department of Labor. Even sometimes when they hear DOL, they get concerned. And so that's another great opportunity that Michigan Works helps take off, lift that workload off people's shoulders, is to do that paperwork and then get set up with us. And then we work out the training, let us know who those individuals are. So again, we've really been able to expand apprenticeship and even other niche areas, looking at winemaking potentially, and spaces that typically are considered non-traditional.
Well, and the funding coming down from the federal and state level is really tied into those training programs, and in particular apprenticeships. So I don't see that surge ending anytime soon, simply because we can help more employers and more applicants with that funding than if we don't have an apprenticeship on the table.
Right, and you spoke of the going pro. I mean, the difference is an incumbent worker gets $1,500. And an apprentice gets $3,000. So again, there's lots of resource allocation directed towards apprenticeship right now, and the potential to and especially that's part of your element too. You get resources from lots of different spaces, and so you can actually take and move those things around as you get cases from different employers.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we consistently, when we have new employers, I mean, Rick and Erin and I are working with a local Fortune 500 company. They're brand new, setting up apprenticeship for business associates with Whirlpool. And again, it's really making it a seamless process for them to recruit students, to get new apprentices. So we're excited about that company, as although on the tech side that they've done very well apprenticeships over the year, they're now getting into their call center and other spaces within there. And again, Rick and Erin have been very valuable in helping that process go seamless.
Teamwork makes the dream work, Ken.
Right. Any other questions for Erin and Rick? Well, fantastic. Thank you so much for taking your time today. As always, it's wonderful to work with both of you, and I hope everyone has a great rest of the conference. I think we start back up around 12:30 with the President's Forum, so please enjoy that, and everyone have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Bye.
Thank you.
We did it.
Congrats. I think it's still recording, so anything that you still say will be used against you in the outtakes. So
Exactly it.
all right. Well,
Take care, all. Have a great conference.
Live from the CNA, live from the CNA lab. Forget to mention, I'm actually in the CNA lab. We probably should have said that too, but that's all right. All right. See you, Erin.